Yeah, they tune in, it's the dude bass rolling deep. Mic check like that, file, let's hit a beat. Voices flowing like the river, knowledge on the spree. Every episode of Journey, come ride with me. Just hit play, it's a vibe, can't you see? The dude bass, we breaking it down. From the underground to the top of the town. Life's effects, intertwined, wearing the crown. Podcast kings and queens, we wearing the gown.
If that Tennessee team shows up, and I know it's going to be harder opponents along the way, but that team is fast, and they can put 21 points on you in no time.
If anybody in the conference is going to beat Georgia, it's going to be us.
The chain gang couldn't even keep up with them yesterday. They couldn't even get the chain set for they was running the next play.
That's
Ole Miss might beat Georgia if they're on the schedule, but I hope we don't play Ole Miss. I mean, we got to fucking play Alabama or not, Oklahoma in Oklahoma this year.
Yeah.
That right there is loss number one.
I don't think it is. I think Tennessee will handle Oklahoma.
Let's bet your 401.
Well, Jacqueline got half of that, so there's not much more.
Well, it's not a big payday for me then, but I'll still take it.
Hey, $5 is $5, baby.
I still think they'll give them a game. I don't think they're going to go out there and get blowed out or anything.
Tennessee's doing good, but they're real young. It's according on how they react when they play a real team. They done good yesterday, but it was the Mocs. And I don't want to take nothing from that, but it was just Chattanooga. So we'll see. Who do they play next week? NC State?
Well, yeah, they play North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's a real game because NC State ain't no pushover.
Yeah, we'll know more after next Saturday how they going to be. You know.
We'll know a lot more after that.
All right. Well, so you guys are everybody's back except Dusty, and maybe he'll show up here after a while. I think we want to talk about how things used to be versus they are today. I know we kind of went over that a little bit last week, but then we ended up just going off on life counseling episode and stuff like that, and it was a pretty good show. You know, Matt, I'll start it off with you. If you could go back to any time on earth, would you stay here or would you go back in time? Which one would you do?
Oh, my God, I would go back, man. Today's time, don't get me wrong, being an adult is okay, but going back, to be able to go back for a little bit and just kind of look around and kind of be in those moments.
Exactly, yeah.
Back when we were all growing up, you know, you couldn't beat that, man. I mean, it was just, to me, it seemed like everything was just better. I don't know if it really was better because we were looking at it through kids' eyes, but
yeah,
it just seemed like everything was just a lot more slower. You didn't have all this technology going on, and it was, if we want to get on our bikes, man, we'd go get on our bikes and we'd go ride around or go shoot basketball. We pretty much did what we wanted to do. You know, I'd go over to Daniel's house and eat, or he'd come over to mine and eat, or, you know, we'd spend the night with you, Corky, or Travis car over at a camp out, and we'd sit and listen to him play. I mean, it was just, that's what I missed the most.
Do you guys remember the time that it was coming a big snowstorm and we had the great idea of like, hey, let's go get Travis. So I thought, yeah, we can make it there and back before it gets too bad. And I remember going to get Travis in the snow and just barely making it back home before we just flat out got stranded in the snow. You guys remember that?
I don't remember that, but I remember me and you were.
Because we left your house, Daniel, and went to get him.
But I don't remember that. I remember going, we were in Athens. It was just me and you. And we were at Taco Bell, and it started snowing hard. By the time we got back to 39, going back to Inglewood, I was having to look out the window to see where the edge of the road was because we were the first car going through all that crap.
All because we wanted some burritos, man. Dang.
Yeah. You remember when I ate the 10 tacos?
I do.
Respect.
I don't know how you eat all those 10 tacos. I remember me and you went to Taco Bell one day and you said something like, he's like, I'm going to beat my record. And I was like, what's your record? You
11 tacos?
11. And I was like, you ain't eating no 11. So I'm sitting there playing Super Nintendo, and all I keep hearing is those rappers crunch. And I'd be like, oh, hell, he's going to do it.
Yeah, well, that was that like eating 10 tacos now from Taco Bell is not that big of a deal. But back then, when I only weighed 140, that was that kind of big.
It was like the only meal you had that day too.
Well, I don't doubt it. It's not like we had any food at my house.
Oh man, I guess we lost Travis. I guess he decided he wanted to go back to 1985 or something.
Where would you
Oh,
go?
well, I don't see him. I can hear him, but I don't see him.
I'm trying to
But,
figure out how to get my damn speaker on.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback from your area too, but you know, it's all good.
I was
Hell, I've
thinking,
been on mute until just a second ago.
Hey, Cork, where would you
Yo.
go, man? Would you
Let me
stay
tell you
or-
something. I've thought about that all day today because, you know, normally I said I would like to go back and witness the pyramids being built, but you know, that's another show. So, and I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm given the chance to go back in time, the 80s is great. And of course, I'd always want to go back to the 80s. If I had to pick a date in the 80s, it'd be 1985. But you know what? I'd also like to go see the 50s, man, because I think in the 50s, that's when life was good, you know?
Yep. Oh, I agree.
Because you had high school, you had the ladies, you had getting in the cool car and going cruising with your buddies. That was the Americana was the 1950s, man. And I would love to go hang out then.
That's one of those eras to me that God, me and Daniel talked about this a while back. You know, you look at the music and stuff like that came out. I mean, it was just simple, you know, like 2 minute and 30-second melodies. And I don't know, man, it was just pure back then. Everything just seemed like it was. That would be a time. That would be a time I'd love to stay in for about 3 weeks. I really would.
so we kind of changed gears on this though, because the original question was, do you think that it was better when you were a kid versus when you're an adult? Or at least that's what I got from the original question. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's how we started off. But for some reason today, I seen like some old 1950s cars going up the road, and I was like, man, I'd love to just be back in the 50s and hanging out back then. But yeah, I guess that was the main topic of the show is things better now versus back in our childhood. But I don't know. I was kind of getting nostalgia on you there. My bad.
No, I mean, we can discuss both ways because I've got something to say on both subjects. Yeah, I think that going back to the 50s would be really cool. That was when my dad's dad, my granddaddy, that was when he was, you know, teenager, early 20s, kind of. I think that he would have been a cool person to hang out with. You know, I think that the people that he hung out with would have been cool people to hang out with. And times were a lot simpler back then too. But you know, when I think about my childhood, okay, and we're talking about how great that everything used to be, okay, we're looking at it from a skewed perspective because, you know, we're looking at our childhood and we're playing the greatest hits, you know.
Right.
We're going, oh yeah, you remember that time when this cool thing happened and that time when this cool thing happened, and those two times that we're talking about happened 10 years apart. Well, what happened the 10 years in between all that, you know, sucked. You know, when I was a kid, you know, with my family, I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of people in my family that really wanted me around, you know, and I never did really have many friends in school. And I just remember if I wasn't with Matt or if I wasn't with you, Corky, or with you, Travis, I was by myself and I was bored as hell. Like there just wasn't a whole lot to do. And when you look at things now, okay, you do have the internet. You're not bored anymore. You're looking at Facebook, or you know, you're not just sitting around like you used to, not doing anything. You actually have something to do.
Right.
So I think that when we look back on our childhood, you know, I can talk all day about how cool Saturday morning cartoons used to be. Okay, but I still live my life Sunday through Friday and go to school with the jerks that I went to school with and get treated like crap, you know, 5 days to get to the next Saturday. You know, I didn't like doing that. So I think that It depends on what kind of lens that you're looking at this stuff with.
I think even the worst part, though, the in between part still wasn't as bad as they are now. We didn't have any responsibility. That's what makes childhood so good is we didn't have any responsibilities. You just got up, did what you wanted to do. Well, you did what you were told to do, and then when you wasn't told to do nothing, you did what you wanted to do. But it still wasn't as bad. Your worst day then still wasn't terrible compared to today.
I get not having no responsibility, and I understand that. But I was also subject to whatever stupidity that my parents wanted to do. Like when I was 4 years old, my dad couldn't get a job around here. Back in the early 80s, we were still in a pretty good recession, and he had burned a couple of bridges at a couple of jobs that he had, and he couldn't find work around here. So what he started doing was looking out of state, which was fine with him because he didn't want to live around here anyway, come to find out. So what happened to me is, hey, we're going to move to Oklahoma 1,200 miles away. Pack your crap. And here I am 4 years old, and I'm going, wait, we're going where? And it's not like it is now where I can, Skype with only people that I knew back then, which was my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, and my cousins. I couldn't do that. So it was, whenever they wanted to say, well, we're going to move from 1,200 miles away, pack your crap. I just had to go with them. And I didn't.
Right, but that's everybody. I mean, we only eat McDonald's when Dad said, hey, you can have McDonald's. Other than that, it was pinto beans, cornbread, or you just didn't eat. I mean, that's a part of childhood, but still, even going to Oklahoma, at least you were 4, not 14. Now that would have been different because then you've got a social standing, 4 years old, like you said, the only people you really know and associate with is other family members, at least it wasn't, pulling you out your 8th grade year somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, and from a social standpoint, I can understand that. When you're 4 and you move someplace and stay for 2 years, that's half your life. That's a long damn time when you're 4. And that's how long we were out there. I seen a picture that me and Bree took at the Texas Roadhouse from 2 years ago. And I was like, damn, that was 2 years ago? That felt like it was yesterday. Well, when I was living in Oklahoma, that was half my life at that point. That was a long damn time. That's kind of my point,
Yeah. Well, we're old as dirt now, so now time goes by.
True that.
Wiki.
Yeah, I can agree totally. I can remember times about my childhood. I guess coming up, I had a lot of friends in school, but there were a lot of people that were pieces of crap too. And, I was just telling my wife about this the other day. I thought I had friends until I got with you guys, which I didn't start hanging out with you guys till probably the 6th or 7th grade, or on past that. So, coming up there, I thought I had a bunch of friends, but really what I had was a bunch of pieces of crap. And, you guys know that whole crew I ran around and
Don't hold back, Corky.
Crap at England.
Yeah.
well, they I'm not going to mention any names on here, but there's just people that we grew up with. And Travis, you may not, you probably wasn't around at this time, but there is people we grew up with that just weren't good people, and there's a lot of times when I was coming up that I was put out, by myself and just had to, because I didn't have nothing going on at the house. So just like Matt said, I'd get out and run around and get into God knows what. Luckily I never got into nothing too major, but it was definitely there for me to get into. We've talked about some of the crazy stuff I done coming up. Not proud of it, but I done it. So I can hear your frustration because I think now maybe Daniel, you think everything's better for you now because you're in more control of everything. But I can definitely feel you on growing up there because if I could go back and change some stuff, I kind of would. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's me and Matt's talked about that a lot. And the only thing that I can say about going back and making changes, there's a couple of changes that I would love to have made, but you really have to watch out as far as the changes that you're making, because it's going to affect your kids later on down the line. And what I mean by that is, man, I hated so and so. If I wasn't ever around so and so, and I wouldn't ever fool with them.
Yeah.
Well, hanging around with so and so led me to this person, which led me to this person, which led me to, having my kids. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I feel you.
So you have to watch out for what you say. I don't know. I don't like to say, I wish that I could change such and such, because honestly, if I'm looking at it from a serious point of view, you can't change anything, because it's going to change the outcome of your kids. And I have to have my kids exactly the way that they are now.
Yeah.
I can't do something that's going to, alter, having any of them, or having any of them turn out the way that they are now. Now, if I could have my kids as they are now and still make the changes, yeah, okay, that's cool. But I know that wouldn't happen.
Well, it's kind of like, you said you moved to Oklahoma when you were 4 years old. That's kind of the reason when we moved here, because of my job to Sweetwater, I still drive Braden all the way to Central, because I'm not going to make him change schools
Right.
because of a decision I made. That's
Right.
not fair to him to uproot him and do all that. Now, does it suck having to drive 30 minutes one way just to take him to school? Yeah. But that's not his fault. That's mine,
And that goes back to what Travis was saying, because once they are in school and they've already established themselves socially, you don't want to do anything that's gonna screw that up.
That's why I take
Absolutely.
Brody to Inglewood. I mean, I could walk him across the street over here in Athens. I'm literally across the street from the school he'd be going to, but all his friends are in Inglewood, so I take him over there, for the same reason. It's too hard to start over. When Mom was married to a piece of shit when I was a kid, of course, it wasn't her fault. We didn't know he was a piece of shit until they got married. Anyway, when they got divorced, she had to move to Sweetwater, and she needed some help. So we moved in with my aunt. And I hate Sweetwater because there was nothing to do up there. We lived so far. We was in Sweetwater, but we were so far away. We wasn't in town. We was like out 322 out through there. So you couldn't just walk to town, have a good time. I was going from 7th grade to 8th grade. So everybody else in that neighborhood that grew up together, they didn't care about the new guy,
No.
So I was kind of alienated up there too. I didn't want to put Brody through that, even though we're not moving houses. It'd be the same way, just on an 8-hour a day basis, Monday through Friday for him.
Yeah,
I feel you, man.
With you. I understand.
Hey, Dusty, welcome, buddy. You showed up late. We're getting in. I don't know what we're talking about, but we're talking about it.
It's technical difficulties. Skype was not wanting to cooperate today for me for some reason.
I had one of those days the other day, man. I don't know what happened.
One of the main questions that we talked about, Dusty, is, do you think that it was better? And we're talking about Dusty here. Okay, this is just your. Do you think that things were better for you when you were a kid, or you're set up now, the way that things are now? And
I think it would depend on what period of my life you ask me.
that's a good way to go with it. I can see that.
If you had asked me as a kid, I would have said things were pretty okay. I lost contact with some of you guys for several years, except for the summer, because my parents divorced and I moved to Etowah, and it kind of sucked for a while. It was just me and Dad was going through his own stuff. For the most part, things were kind of okay. Now looking back, I can see that there was, looking back with adult eyes, I can look back and I can see the problems that I didn't see with kid eyes, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Yep.
Are there some things that, you get into that talk like you were talking about, Daniel, when I finally got on here, kind of that butterfly thing. Okay, well, if I change this for the better, would it alter what, my future looks like? I don't know, because like I said, it wasn't growing up me wasn't fun, but you know, I mean, I had some good moments, but maybe maybe I would be worse, maybe I would be better. I don't know. But I think it's hard because, like I said, we look at some things when we're kids and we look back as an adult and we go, I'm really thankful that maybe the adults around me didn't let me know how bad it was. Because it could have been worse.
I see
You know,
that.
ain't it funny how, I don't know how we got off on this subject, but let's just roll with it. You know, growing up, obviously, I never knew my dad. I seen him one time in a barber shop. I walked into the barber shop and my uncle had taken me to the barber shop. I walked in, he seen me come in and sit down. He got up and walked right out. Never said a word to me, didn't even look at me. I didn't even know it was him until my uncle looked at me. He said, you know, that was your dad, right? And I said, no, I didn't know that. So, you know, never had a dad. So, you know, I spent the majority of my childhood trying to figure out, honestly, what's a dude supposed to do? Because I didn't have a role model, you know, to look up to. So a lot of you guys didn't know this as you know, we were growing up, but you know, I was looking at all y'all's dad. You know, I cannot tell you the amount of times I would sit and watch Matt and his dad interact. And, you know, I would wish, you know, I wish I had that. You know, I can tell you the times that I've sit and watched them play Ken Griffey Jr. baseball, and I would wish, you know, I had that, you know. I'd always put on this front like everything was cool, but, you know, that was my way of figuring stuff out. I had to watch everybody else's dad teach their kid, and from that, I had to just try to put it together myself. Now you go on to my adulthood. I've got 3 kids myself, and my whole world is wrapped around them and my wife. I've also spent the last 15 years of my life, you know, coaching youth football because I know there's several of those kids out there. If they don't have nobody at home, they're going to have me out there on that football field to be a mentor to them. Now, this is my last year. I've decided to hang it up and you know, devote the last 2 years. Braden's going to be at the house. Just going to be me and him. But ain't it funny how, you know, when you're a child growing up and you're looking at all your friends' dads and you're looking for role models like that, and then you grow up and that in turn makes you, you know, because, you know, why would I want to coach football and stay out to 9 o'clock every night on a work night, you know, just to help mentor these kids? But see, I think that, you know, if you look back on it, that was instilled in me because I had nobody growing up, you know, and what the male interaction I got growing up was at football practice, was at your house, was at Matt's house, and you know it's spilled over into my adult life now. I'm, you know, subconsciously helping these kids in my own way because I know some of them just ain't got nobody, you know. I think that's interesting to think about it like that.
But I will say this, you know, most people raise their kids how they were raised as far as son to son, stuff like that. And like you said, you didn't have anybody to really go off of to, you know, hey, I'm going to talk to Jace like this because my dad talked to me like this. You know what I'm saying? But you've done a whole lot better than what most people who didn't have a dad, you know, would do. You know what I'm saying? So you said you looked at some of them's dads. We first started coaching football. Sometimes I looked at how you treated your kids, and that helped me cool out with mine sometimes. So, you know, at least you still, you changed the, you didn't carry on history, you know, you didn't let it repeat itself. That's, you know, good job.
Yeah, well, that's deep, and I've done the same thing with you, man. You're able to talk to people, you know, something because you know me. Shoot, I'm always like, we don't need to do that, and, you know. And sometimes, you know, Travis, I always come to you, and you're like, no, bro, you need to handle it this way. And I still go to all you guys and try to get help because shoot, man, you got to go to somebody. You know what I'm saying? I think we've all helped out each other growing up, man, and I think that's why we're still good buddies to this day, man. Because you know,
Well,
you got to be there for each other.
that's why, you know, I will talk. I don't trust myself making decisions sometimes because sometimes I think you can get tunnel vision and you just
Right.
see so one sided. Sometimes you got to get back out and get with people you trust and say, hey, I got a decision to make. What do you think about it? Because you guys know exactly how I run. You know how I operate. I don't, I've never hid behind walls or anything with you guys. I'm pretty honest with every one of you. And usually, when I call one of you guys and say, hey, or text and say, what do you think about this? Am I looking at it? Am I being stupid? What's going on? And the good thing about everybody is you guys will tell me the honest opinion. And that's what I'm looking. Because when you have friends, because I consider you guys family, I always have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want somebody to tell me, oh yeah, you're doing this will work out great. Sometimes you got to be told what you don't want to hear, and it's not because it's not because that they're your enemy. It's they're looking at it at a different angle than you are. Because a lot of times you get blind spots in life.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody to pick up and say, hey, you got to check that right there out. Because when I came out of my house, the one thing I always wanted to do was take the blueprint that I had got and run the exact opposite. If I did exactly how things operated in that house, my house would fall apart would fall apart that way too. So Dad showed me a lot on things, but I think Dad also showed me a lot of what he was willing to put up with. And that's when I talked to you guys the other day about trade-offs. What are you willing to trade off in your life to get what you want? And I watched Dad trade a lot of stuff off, and it didn't work for him in the end. So I think with Dad and his severe PTSD and stuff like that, me and him had a really good relationship growing up, and it was, I try to pattern myself after him, how he would do things and stuff like that. So yeah, Courtney, when you talk about being having role models and stuff like that, what you're doing and what you've done in your life, and all of you guys, I've seen all of you guys raise your families and stuff, man. Y'all have done a great job considering where we were at when we were growing up, because we all had blueprints. Every one of you's done good. Daniel's done great. Corky's done great. Travis has done great. Dusty's done great. Every one of you guys have done great. You guys are great dads. You've been great husbands. I mean, that's the success right there. It don't matter what happens in your life. You can look back and say, you know what? You did it the right way. You did it. You were better than what you came from.
And that's what matters, man. Yeah.
And you guys did that.
Yeah.
And that's
man. It's deep. It's deep, man. Go ahead, Daniel.
We're talking about, Matt, you took the blueprint from your parents and basically did the opposite. That's a lot of what I did. I took, more of what not to do from my parent, from my mom and dad, and I applied it to my life like that. And then, we go back and we're talking about, this kind of relates. But we go back and we talk about, when we look at our own childhoods and when we think about the good times, that's our highlight reel. That's our greatest hits. Well, the reason why my greatest hits has all y'all in it is because of that right there. I mean, that's how close we are. 90% of every time I've start laughing about something, and my wife's going, what are you laughing about now? Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, such and such happened. 90% of the time, it's going to have one of you four guys, in it. That's just how close we were. So that's a testament to where we are now.
It's hard to find people like that, because I remember Dusty's probably the oldest friend I've got out of the whole bunch, because me and him met when we were 5 years old, and his mom and my mom were really good friends, and they used to watch after us after school and stuff like that. To me, it's really cool that we could sit and argue with each other, but still be okay. And that right there is a huge thing, because a lot of times, I remember me and Travis got into an argument when we were kids, and hell, I thought that was going to be it. But then the next day we were fine. Me and Corky's got into scrapes. Me and Dusty's got into scrapes. Me and Daniel's got into scrapes, but I think that's what makes you stronger as you go, because when those people don't leave over stupid bullshit like that, that's when it's it's a real thing.
Yeah,
I
that's true.
just usually if I get to argue with somebody, I just give them some time, let them realize, well, he was right. So, and then they come back around.
That's a pretty good method of how to work things. I tell you what, that's pretty awesome.
Tried and true.
Yeah.
That's why I put
But,
on my Facebook post tonight, man, because I was sitting there thinking, I was watching SpongeBob eating some soup, and he goes, I got the flu or whatever I've got. And I was just thinking about how, lucky
You got the kung flu, buddy.
something. But I was thinking how, how lucky you are. I mean, there's people out there that ain't got nobody. I mean, they literally go home and they got no contact with people. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's nice just to kind of set in neutral and not deal with nothing. But man, I could reach out and talk to y'all at any moment. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people just can't. And you got to watch out, because friends today, I don't think are like friends when we grew up. Because we grew up we were like the Goonies. What about you, Dusty? You think that's true?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like it.
I refuse to do the truffle shuffle.
No, you'll have the boxing glove that pops out of your chest.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Speaking, it's kind of, you speak about that because I've got one that just started 8th grade. I started a family a little bit later than the rest of you guys. I mean, I've got one just going into 2nd grade this year, so I've got a little ways before I'm
Yeah.
I was 30. Yeah, I was 38, and it was like, surprise. I probably could have picked somebody better to have the kid with, but that's another story. But Matt's laughing because he knows. But anyway, but seeing what my son has gone through in middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, it really is. I mean, it's a lot of fair weather friends. It's kids don't do some of the stuff we did where we were able to bond. Like we had, the days out in the park, and where we would disappear at dawn and come back at dark, and the camping and the sleepovers and that kind of stuff. A lot of kids don't do that nowadays, just because you don't know anybody's parents, and people just don't, parents don't talk to other parents the way they did, like our parents talked.
Kids don't know how to socialize anymore either.
They really don't. They know how to text each other. They know how to airdrop each other. But as far as actually sitting them down in a room and having a conversation, it's a complete deer in headlights. No, they don't have the friendships aren't as strong as they were, I think, when we were growing up, just because they don't have those experiences that bond them like we had.
And we had bonded moments too. I remember me and Corky, we would come home from school and his mom would be working over at Ed's, and Corky would just hang out with me all day. We'd sit in the room, play Nintendo, listen to music. Daniel would come over and we'd go down to the park and shoot basketball. You look back on it, it wasn't just because we didn't have nothing to do. We could have sat in our rooms and just done stuff on our own. But man, we chose to be around each other. And to me, that right there was awesome. Heard Travis play guitar, man. I was like, man, play this. And he could just play it. And I was like,
yeah. And what is the first time I'd ever heard the guitar played in real life was somebody that actually was playing the guitar. And I remember it just blew my freaking mind, man. I was like, this is your cousin, Daniel? Dang.
I went over there. I guess we started hanging out. Me and Travis it was kind of off and on, because our parents were brother and sister, and it's kind of like what Travis said before. They loved each other, they hated each other. So there would be times where, the family would get pissed off at each other. And then whenever the family's pissed off, then, me and Travis don't talk, because I'm in the 7th grade and he's in the 6th grade. You know what I mean? So you're never around them. But I think probably 7th or 8th grade, I was over there at Travis's house, and it was back there. I guess you were staying in the room, but it was Jody's old room in the back, and you had that one guitar, and you were just one-noting like songs, except you were keeping up with the songs. It still sounded good, but it was before you really got to playing really good. I always thought that was cool.
I think it was about, I had a 5th grade teacher that she could play the guitar. I always wanted to play the guitar before then. Dad could play, but I just never, Dad was a fireman, he's a cop. He didn't have time he was always at work, so he didn't have time to teach me anything. So I just played with the radio and MTV. After I saw her playing, I could match one string to it, but I didn't know my chords.
Yeah.
When I found out that, hey, there's chords, what they call it, then I'd watch CMT and watch their fingers. That's how I learned my chords. And then on Dad's off days, I'd just ask him, hey, what's that called? And I think I was holding a C, and he was like, that's an A. Dad kind of taught himself too, so he didn't, he knew the chords. He didn't know what all of them was called. But and then I didn't learn what bar chords was until 8th grade. That's when Green Day came out, and that's all they played was bar chords. But it was fun.
Yeah, when I was over at your house, you were playing My Sharona. And you used this one note on the string, but you was keeping up with it. And it sounded fine, I always thought that was cool.
Well, I had 8 tracks too, and I only had a couple of 8 tracks, and the Knack was one of them. So my Sharona was on there. I think I had a Nazareth 8-track too.
Man, that's crazy.
The next time that I saw you play, when you really started to get good, you was living over there behind the McDonald's in Etowah, in that neighborhood. And you were sitting outside, I guess. I don't know, but you had just learned how to do some kind of, you could make a note and you could make it sound a certain way. And I can't remember if you were listening to Jimi Hendrix play the national anthem or if that's just in my head, but it seems like you were listening to that or something that sounded like that, and you had figured out how to make certain kind of note. And you were getting good at that point.
Might have been a ghost note. Look, that's what Zach Wild hits all the time, that little squeal.
Yeah.
That's a ghost note. I didn't learn how to do that till I was probably a junior or senior in high school. I think we was living at Keller Court then. That was right behind McDonald's.
Yeah.
So that's about the time frame there.
And then I went to a party one time in Etowah, and you were playing at somebody's house. I showed up, and it seemed like you played some kind of Motley Crue song, Dr. Feelgood or something. And I was like, good God, that sounds just like it. Oh my God.
Oh, that was at Brian Preston's house.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the first time I ever heard the drums be played live too. That blew my mind too. It was up at his house.
I mean, they started playing Dr. Feelgood or whatever song it was, and it sounded just like it. I was impressed. I liked it.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, there was some good music come out of that house for a while.
So what's been like the biggest takeaway in life you guys have had?
The biggest live?
Yeah, like if somebody comes up to you and they said, "What do you think life is about? What's your biggest takeaway?"
I'd tell them, I don't know.
Don't know yet. I'm not done yet.
I know what it's about. It's about loss.
It is.
As soon as you're born, you lose time with everybody you love. You lose time through your own life. The more time you're here, the less time you have.
Yeah, you're constantly losing something.
As soon as you're born, you start dying. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't really have a shelf life until you start breathing. So it's really about loss. All the friends you make, eventually you're going to lose them. Either they're going to die, you're going to die. Every pet you've ever had, they're going to die. I mean, it's everything. It's all about loss. You got to, that's why I tell them kids, we coach football, you got to learn how to suffer. I mean, it ain't just about football, but you get used to suffering, and now you can probably have a pretty good life once you realize, hey, I'm going to be losing something today. I just don't know what it is. Most of the time, you don't even know what you lost, but you're losing something every day.
So what's the takeaway from it? Just appreciate what you have while you have it?
Just
enjoy the moment.
Just get used to losing.
Well, I mean, I think
Cinderella said it best. You don't know what you got till it's gone.
I believe that. I think enjoy the moment, man. Carpe diem. Seize the moment, man, because you're not promised tomorrow. So you might as well have a good time today.
Think about this, though. I mean, you think about like when we die, I mean, there's going to be people that know us, and, our kids are going to know us, our friends that are alive are still going to know us, but everybody else, time goes on, everybody starts dying, and then that's a few more people that don't remember you.
You're 2 generations away from nobody knowing who you are.
Right.
That's it.
Because I don't
That's
know anybody of my family that was, like 40, 50, 60 years ago. I don't
Yeah.
know. They're dead. The last person that knew them, they're gone. So that's when you're really dead, is when nobody remembers you anymore.
Yeah, you're 2 generations away from being forgotten about altogether, unless you're like a super famous person or something like that.
Yeah, but shit, even these guys ain't really. I mean, who sits and thinks about Edgar Allan Poe a whole lot?
Well, right.
Some they say I do.
I think about that. Look at this. I just bought this. I just bought this. Damn it.
So you get to see him every day.
This
But
How did I know that?
if you've got a family like me and Daniel has, we're all named after our grandpa.
Yeah.
We had a grandpa named Curtis Hughes. All right, he had a son named Curtis Hughes. All right, well, all his kids named at least one of their kids after him. That had a boy. Like Daniel's first name's Curtis. My first name's Curtis. I got a brother named Curtis. And then I've got another brother that has the middle name of Papaw. And then I've got a son named Curtis Travis. So, at least Jack's kids are going to remember Papaw, even though I didn't even get to meet Papaw. But a lot of, they'll at least know about him.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. My family never thought that far ahead. I don't even know my Papaw's name. I've never even thought about him, really.
It's like some kind of rule in our family, on mother's side. If you have a male child, Curtis has got to come up at some point.
Yeah, Papaw must have been a hell of a man, because I can't even get people to name pets after me.
Well, who wants to call their kid Corky, man? I mean, come on.
Hey, they had that one Down syndrome kid had that
Yeah.
show named
I've never heard that joke before. Never. That was the first time.
They based that off of you, though, didn't they?
No, man.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah, he was probably smarter than me, though,
You go to church and they don't even call you Corky; they call you Gore. So,
Gore? Hey, look. I was already shy going to somebody's youth group that you've never been to before, and then you're sitting there trying to look cool, and the pastor looks at you and goes, "Hey, what's your name?" And I say Corky, and he goes, "Gore?" And I'm like, "What?"
Travis, that was down there with Johan and all them.
Oh yeah, the East Athens Baptist.
That was the North Athens.
Yeah, same thing.
That was with Johan and all them.
I wish I'd have known his name was Johan. I'd have been like, "No, it's not Gore, Johan."
His name is John, but I always called him Johan because he didn't like me for some reason. I don't know why.
It's because all the girls liked you, and he wanted all the girls to like him.
Well, hell, it ain't my fault that I had good genetics, and he looked like a damn worm had shit slung out of it.
He did look weird, didn't he? He looked like a weird guy. Was he really?
Just say no, bro.
He ended up being an addict, and it went bad for him.
Really?
He had
Maybe that's why he called me Gore then, because he was too busy on drugs than listening to me.
He was on another planet.
And I don't want to talk bad about that guy. Just
I do.
You see what I mean about Travis? That's the advice you get from him, and that's sometimes you need that.
But kind of what I'm saying is, I had you core, friends. The one time that I tried to go and make some more friends, to expand my friends, I went over at that church, and and all that anybody wanted to do was talk about how cool smoking pot was, and how cool, talk about how cool it was, and to go do it. And then, that whole thing was a waste of my time. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's what everybody, you ain't cool if you don't smoke dope. Well, I guess I'm just an uncool motherfucker. I guess I never did. I didn't like it. Didn't. I mean, I was around everybody I was around except for y'all. I always did it. I had access to it. It just never appealed to me.
I went a couple times with them guys, and I never did. I guess I just wasn't smart enough to do it. I don't know, but I didn't get shit off of it. And I was
Look, man,
understand why you think this is so freaking cool. And
Look,
then,
you could not walk in the kitchen of my house unless somebody was smoking marijuana in the kitchen.
well, so
I got drunk. Most kids took to school with cigarette smoke on them. I smelled like a joint when I went to school. You know what I'm saying?
So what happened with this guy though is he sit around and him and his brother talked about how cool it was to smoke dope and all this, and you know how cool it was to do it, and then they would go do it, and that's all they talked about, and it was just so cool. And he ended up being an addict in his life, and his son actually OD'd and died.
Dang, really?
And you know, I'm sorry if one of them happens to listen to this podcast and it's horrible, but that's truth.
No
I'm not disrespecting nobody, but you know, that's all I heard when I went to that youth group was how cool it was. And now, as an outsider, I'm looking and seeing, you know, the after effects of all that,
Yeah.
and that's the after effects from it.
I mean,
And-
that's generational curses, man. I mean, they say, you know, sins of the father visited upon the son. You know, that's sometimes that's what it'll lead you. That's why, you know, that's why I think it's so important we have to set the right examples. You know, I mean, because
that's true.
I mean, you got generational curses, you know, where dads weren't, you know, parents weren't in the picture or something like that. You know, I mean, I've never really talked about it before, but I mean, I'll talk about it with you guys. I mean, my dad didn't want me. He had to take me. He didn't have a choice. I mean, he had a choice, but he didn't really have a choice, if that makes any sense.
No,
They didn't have a fire station in town or nothing.
Well, I was 8 years old and almost and 175 pounds. He couldn't have fit me in the box anyway.
I
mean,
understand what you're
I was
saying.
bigger than most. I was bigger than some of the firemen at that point. But no, it's just, I mean, a lot of you guys don't know this. My mom was messed up. She was homeless when I was a kid. She was living in the back of her car. She was hooked on coke, and she couldn't have any custody of me. So, you know, I promised that if I ever became a dad, I wanted to make sure my kids knew that they were wanted every single day, and I've tried to do that. So, you know,
You've done a good job, buddy.
I'm not trying to bring the mood down. It's just, you know, you got to mention, you know, one guy gets real heavy in the drugs and his kid ODs. I mean, that's that curse being passed down through the generation.
Exactly. Yeah. And saying you gotta take it in. You gotta think. Well, even coming up with me, I wasn't joking when I told you guys that you could walk into my kitchen and there'd be 5 or 6 people, you know, passing a joint around. That growing up, that was normal to me. I can remember being 4 and 5 years old, and I would be with my mom, and she would go wherever she went to buy her marijuana. And it would come in a rolled up baggie, like a sandwich bag, you know? And I remember she would let me play with it in the car. I would roll it up and drop it and let it drop down like a yo-yo. And I would try to make a yo-yo out of this quarter bag of marijuana. Growing up, it was normal. It was as normal as somebody smoking cigarettes to me. I thought that's just what people did. Now, you know, coming up, my mom had me when she was 17. Like I said, I never knew my dad, never nothing. And when I say stuff like this, don't get me wrong. My mom loved me. I know my mom done the best she could do. But at the reality of it, when she had me, she was still a kid too, you know. Yeah. So she done the best she could do. And I never wanted for anything. You know, I was poor, but who wasn't poor back in them days, you know. But I hadn't talked about it a lot, you know, to a lot of people, but my mom passed away about 3 months ago. And I'll try to get through this. And if I don't, you guys just, you know, carry on. But, you know, one of the things I was going through, and I talked with Matt a lot about it, is that was it. That was my parents. You know, I had nobody. That was it. No dad, nobody else. And so.
No, I feel you because as soon as my mom and dad got a divorce, they got divorced when they were 14, when I was 14. And my dad left as soon as he could. And so I was left with my mom, and that was kind of a strained relationship from the time that I'm not laughing. You know, it was a strained relationship, put it nicely. I am 46 years old, and I had to go no contact with her about 7, 8 years ago because it got that bad. And I'm still at no contact. I don't hold her no ill will, and I don't hold any of my brothers and sisters any ill will. And I consider myself to still have a good relationship with my brothers and sisters, but with my mom, it's got to be like that, man, because it's a bad dynamic, and we don't get along, and that's just the truth of the matter. So when my dad died back in 2019, I feel like I don't have a parent either,
Yeah.
Remember, our dads died, what was it, 6 months apart, something like that. And I remember when dad died, of course I was there in the parking lot when he collapsed and died. And it didn't hit me until probably about 2 weeks after we buried him. I knew he was gone, but when you walk out the back door and you look over where you grew up and the man's not going to be there no more, that starts hitting you. So then you're like, wow, that's really some heavy shit, because me and Dad were close, and when you lose somebody like that, there's some days, man, it's been like, 5 years. I mean, some days it don't even feel real. Some days I walk out the back door waiting to see him on the fence, waiting to talk to me with a cup of coffee. But, I think that's the way it's always going to be, when you lose somebody close to you like that. And that's what Travis said is right. Life is loss.
Yeah, it is.
And
you got to learn, you got to learn to deal with it. I'll try to finish my story now, since, obviously I still get emotional about it. But, coming up, so it was me and my mom, right? So, she passes away, and, I had never dealt with anything like, because you don't know what it's like until one of your parents pass away. That's a shot that you don't take every day in life. So, if it weren't for my wife and you guys, it was a real dark time for me. But I'll tell you, I had my family, and my wife was a rock star through it all. She carried me through it all. And, Travis, I know it happened when you happened to be gone to get the boys. But I'll tell you guys, when I was sitting at my mom's funeral, and I was up there with my wife and my kids, and we was getting through it. And I looked back and I seen you guys back there. That was real. And I appreciate it.
Yeah,
see,
friends gonna show up, man.
Right. And that's what I was saying earlier. I see us all as a family, because I was sitting there with Dusty, and Daniel and Bree were flanking me on the left side. And that moment did not get lost on me either, because I was sitting there watching everybody, and you see how real that moment is, because that's one of the realest moments you're going to have in your life. And you're looking around everybody, and it's like, okay, the people in here, that's your family that are here.
Yeah, it was real, man. And, I told my wife, we was all close before then, but that day you guys showed me that I do still have family, and I appreciate that. You guys will always be my brothers. I don't even call you friends anymore. We ain't got to get all homosexual about it, but I love you guys. I do. And I appreciate you guys being there. Meant more than me than you will ever know. And I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome.
Absolutely, dude.
Definitely.
But
what scares me the most, and I mean, aside from your kid dying, there's nothing that's going to top that. I hope I never experience that, and I hope you guys never experience that, because when I work with a lady whose son died. I don't know how she does it, and that's something I hope I never have to encounter. I really don't. But I'm going to tell you something that will hurt on the B side. Is the 5 of us sitting here, the first one that goes, that's going to be a weird day.
Yeah, it'll be rough, man. It'll be rough.
Travis, hope I raised me.
I knew he was going to say that.
17 cigarettes during this podcast. I'm going.
No, you'll outlive us all.
Yeah, no, you'll probably bury every one of us. I guarantee.
I don't think so. Look, I kicked that football last week at practice, practicing that onside kick. I woke up Friday morning, man, and I have some kind of sciatic issue going on. Like, I can't even walk. Like it hurts down into my ankle from my ass.
Shoot, man, that's what happened to me whenever I started working out again. Working
Oh
out,
yeah.
and then I'm walking into work and I'm hobbling, and I feel like I need crutches.
These were onside kicks. I wasn't even putting my whole ass into it. I was just like bumping it over our tool, man.
Yeah, you basically just bump it with your toe, man. You don't even kick it.
Yeah, over our sweating bullets, man. And
Well,
woke up Friday morning. I was like, I kind of hurt. Then I drove to Chattanooga for a doctor's appointment, and about fell down getting out of the truck. Like, God, what happened, man? Sucks.
while we're on an uptick here, not to change the subject completely, but we're on the subject of how close we all are. Now, when I remember my childhood, like I said, about 90% of it has at least one of you guys in it, if not all of us. So I want everybody to think about this and tell me, what is your, when you think back, childhood, and it could be from, kindergarten on through senior year of high school. Well, when you think about, times with us, what is the one thing that pops into your mind? What's the one thing it's like, man, it was either super funny or man, that was a super cool moment or what, when you think back, all of us in it, or just one of us, what's the thing that pops in your head the most?
I've got
Go ahead, Travis.
We was at your house, so we was upstairs. I guess I was probably in 6th grade and using about 7th grade. And your mom and dad were still together then. They still married up. And he'd holler up the stairs, hey, y'all need to quieten the hell down. We're like, all right, well, we as kids, we're still bebopping around. His bedroom was right over their bedroom. So we're raising all kinds of hell up there playing Dick Tracy on Nintendo or something. And hell, it'd been about an hour since last time he hollered at us. Like, well, he must be asleep. Man, the damn door flung open. His daddy, how tall was your dad? About 6'5"?
He's about 6'2", really.
Well, he was skinny, so he looked real tall. Anyway, dude rolled in there wearing his da-da-da-das and had a belt that was dragging the ground. I was trying not to laugh, man. It looked like he had a dead squirrel in his damn britches. I mean, he had 14 feet of dick, I guess. And it was just all wadded up right. And he was standing like right here at my head, man. I'm like, just fucking beat me. I remember that. Like, he laughed and I laughed my ass off. I laughed all night, probably.
That's awesome.
That's funny as hell. I don't remember that happening.
Yeah, well, hell, it wasn't your face that was over next to it. No wonder you don't remember.
God almighty, that's funny.
I don't know if there's one in particular, man, because there's so many things that we all did. I mean, you could pick anything. You could pick Corky getting tackled and calling for the doctor. Dusty,
that was a power bomb, man.
Dusty beating the hell out of me and Daniel and Dusty having to carry me home.
So I think back on my childhood, about 9 times out of 10, the wrestling match / camp out is what comes to mind. And the whole damn thing started when you morons got me and Dusty into it. I remember I leaned my head. It was Matt, you were in my bedroom with me. And I had these stupid workout gloves on, right? So I was going to come out.
Yeah, I remember those.
And it was like, Dusty gonna take you, Dusty gonna take you. Well, let's get a match going now, a pre-match. And I'm going, man, shut up, I don't even want to hear it. It's, no, man, Dusty gonna take you. Okay, fine. So Dusty's standing down there under my bedroom window, and Corky's standing down there with him. Travis, I don't know if you showed up yet or not. I can't remember if you was there that Friday or if you didn't show up till the Saturday. But, okay, I was like, I remember distinctly, I said, you get your ass to the ring. Okay, so me and Matt go down there, meet up with Corky and Dusty, and it was down there on the lower baseball field of the park, right? And I've got these stupid wrestling gloves on, and I weigh every bit of about 110 pounds, and Dusty over there pushing 290, okay, and probably could bench press every bit of it. I don't know what the hell y'all were thinking about goading me into a physical anything with this guy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to kick this guy as hard as I can in the knee, man, and we're going to see what happens. And that's all I was thinking, just get the shot in the knee. I walked up, I kicked him as hard as I could in the knee, and he looked at me, and then ran back and grabbed me, picked me up over his head, and threw me down.
Oh God, I remember it like it was
That's when I
yesterday.
got disoriented, and the next thing I know, I mean, he's just pummeling me on the ground. Next thing I know, I'm leaned up against the fence. Matt and Corky's having to drag him off of it. It's like, he can't breathe, man. He can't breathe. Yeah, I've got him. I've got him. No, he's dead. He's dead. He's done. I tasted blood. And I was like, you sons of bitches did this. It's y'all's
And-
fault. It's
and
y'all's fault.
And Corky didn't know it, but he was 12 hours away from getting his and calling for the doctor.
You know what? You know what, Daniel? The funniest thing about that dude is I remember he beat you like a rag doll. Your body was just flopping uncontrollably all over the place, and he was just
That's how
beating
hard
you like a rag doll.
he was throwing me down so hard my body was bouncing, man.
Dusty, how much of that do you remember?
I blame you. I blame you and Corky for goading me into that bullshit anyway. I had no business whatsoever in a
You know,
fist contest with him.
Just a promoter, man.
I think we thought it was funny, and I can remember me looking at Matt, and I was like, "Oh God, he's gonna kill him. We gotta stop
I
this."
didn't think it was funny. I was bleeding.
We're going
I
to
was
prison.
bleeding.
It was like Brock Lesnar against Spike Dudley.
It was bad. And then the next day when we had the actual thing, it was the Etowah boys against the Inglewood boys. Man, there's so many memories from that I could tell you. It's hilarious. That whole day was just hilarious.
Yeah,
How
that
did
was
we
the
pull
greatest
something
match.
off? I'll never know, because we're like 14 years old and we managed to like have this half-assed backyard wrestling production without the internet. We just went out and started like, hey, you want to fight? We like having a fight.
It's because we spent a month at school hyping the shit up to everybody. And so
One
Yeah.
person stealing a
Like-
quarter or nothing.
everybody like Keith Baker and Heath Ingram and all them Etowah boys, we did nothing but hype that shit up for like a month, and until they finally came down, you know, it was fun. But Mitchell power bombed me for real, and it's not like you can do a wrestling move on him, because then he want to fight, you know.
You couldn't tackle him in football.
He get mad.
You couldn't
get
tackle him in
mad.
football either. I tackled him one time. He threw the football at me. Dude, it's football.
I know, like you couldn't. I dunked on him one time at the park, and he started swinging. I'm like, God darn, come on, man.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it was over there. It's just watched you get torched, but it ain't that serious.
Then you know, yeah, Jeremy Martin had come up, and he sat there and he watched us for about 10 minutes, right? And he goes, man, I'd whoop somebody's ass if they did something like that to me. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, man, I promise, I won't want to fight, man. Just let me wrestle somebody. Let me wrestle somebody. I promise. I won't get mad. Man, you just sit there and say that you was going to fight.
I remember that playing football, and Travis, he was my receiver, and we was all out there on the soccer field, and Mitchell and Corky and I think Heath were on the other side, and it was me, Travis, and Daniel. And Travis says, look, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to go out 10 yards, and I'm going to cut across midfield. You're going to lead me. And I was like, Travis, Mitchell's on that other side. He's going to hit you. He goes, no, he won't. I'll get him. I was, okay. So I counted the ball down, and here goes Travis, and he cuts. And I see Mitchell, and I'm like, fucking, I'm throwing it. I threw it, and Travis no longer catches it. Mitchell hits him so damn
Oh
hard.
God.
Travis spins a somersault twice in the air, and all you hear is Mitchell go, boom, bitch.
I remember that.
But did I fumble the ball?
No,
Travis,
you didn't. No, you
Travis has
didn't.
caught the ball. He's going one way, and then in the blink of an eye, his body is flying the other way. And all I hear is boom, bitch.
Tough son bitch right here, buddy.
Travis comes back, and he goes, we got the first down.
He can pick up my arm.
It's all
Pick
about
up my
the
leg.
team, buddy. I said we, not me.
Oh God.
Dusty
You guys
put
remember
me
the
Dusty
you guys
put me in, Tom, and it about broke my legs. You remember that, Dusty?
Grapevine?
Yes. That's at
I
night.
tapped-
You
I
had to carry me home.
I think the last one I remember was at my grandma Hazel's, her side yard, because it was late at night. It was me and Corky, for the title. That's the last one I remember participating in, and it was like 3 hours we were fighting on the ground.
So,
And
all
I
right,
think I finally tapped him, and I don't remember us ever having another contest after that. I think I've still got the belt up here. It's been 30 years. It was like cardboard. Matt was so proud of this belt. Like he had cut it out of cardboard, and it had it was like gold lame. It was like gold foil on the belt. It looked like the old the big eagle belt that WWE used to have.
Dusty, is that your memory that you had, or did you have something else?
My personal favorite memory that we all got to do together was the Trail of Terror, the Halloween haunted house,
My
the
God.
Halloween trail that we did.
Oh, the woods of the damned. God.
And God help, Jerry Lee had to take it one step too far. He had like the cauldron in the center. There was, I think, actually a dead body in it. He was boiling. He brought his own devil costume, which the less questions asked about that, the better.
Right.
But you come out to the clear and he's like dancing around, welcome, yeah. You could pitch, and he was 4 foot nothing anyway, so he looked like a little imp from hell.
The woods of the damned. I remember Corky pitched that idea to me, and I was like, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to do this. And Corky, Corky loved talking people into shit. He did.
I still do. Look at this podcast.
I wouldn't even talk about it anymore. We'd be sitting there playing the Super Nintendo, and he'd be like, so what do you think, man? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, I think you can do it. And I was like, no. He goes, I think we can, man. I think we should. And I was like, but then, I'd drop it. A couple days later, we'd be at school. He'd go, so, man, I think we can do it. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Eventually, I just said, hell, let's just do it.
Oh, it was horrible, man.
Stop giving that one dude his money back, man.
We gave a lot of people their money back, but the one thing that stands out about my mind, the one night we done that, is nobody had a chainsaw, and I was supposed to be the chainsaw guy. And somehow I got my hands on Jeremy Martin, or maybe it was Matt's dad's weed eater or something like that. Was it your dad's? And so I'm back there like camped out, right? And I'm waiting because I'm like supposed to scare the people at the end with the freaking weed eater, right? So here they come. They're walking around the corner. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm about ready to crank it. Then I just start cranking, and it won't start.
I have told this story to many people. And I've got this one guy, man, he just about pees on himself every time I tell it. So those people come around there and you jumped out and you took that weed eater and it's like,
And they laughed in my face.
Oh, man, they were laughing at you.
And you know what? Another time from that night was there was people walking through there, and like, we were trying to have this haunted house with like 5 people, and we didn't have enough people. You had to scare somebody and then run to another part of the haunted house and get set up again. So I remember one time this dude was like, that's walking through it. He goes, man, this sucks. And he just stops and starts pissing right in the middle of it. And you know what? What could you do?
I was sitting there and I was posted up beside this tree and I had that Michael Myers mask on, that big thick latex mask. And I smoked back then, okay? So I'm sitting there and there ain't nobody coming through. So I light up my cigarette and I'm smoking. Well, then these people, they just come out in the middle of nowhere and I'm like, shit, here's people. So I've got the mask, it's on my head. And so I went, that latex don't breathe, man. So that went straight into my eyes. I was behind the tree holding my hands going, oh, God, help me.
God, that sucks so bad, man.
The guy and his girlfriend, she was like, oh my God. The dude's like, that's Michael Myers. That son of a bitch don't talk.
He does now.
Oh, God.
Man, I couldn't see. I took my mask. God, that sucked.
I never will forget that. That was an awful, awful night, man. And I think we ended up giving everybody's money back that went through it, except for maybe 2 people. That's it. Golly bum.
Man, that was terrible. God,
I don't know what we was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't know what you were thinking, because we were following off what you did.
And you know what's sad is I've still got that idea in my head. I was just a couple weeks ago like, you know what? If I could find a place to do this, we can make a lot of money for the football team, you know? Then I was like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Stop it.
Well, the-
Yeah, just stop.
Well, dude, the weird thing was I had went to like this army surplus store, so I had like all camouflage on, and I had this old black zip up hoodie. I had cut eye holes in, and I just pulled it over and like just tied it with the drawstring, so all you saw was my eyes. And I put like this glow in the dark paint, so all you saw were these eyes coming at you. And I'm, 5'10", 5'11". I was well over 300 pounds at the time, so here's this big lumbering thing coming to you to see the lights coming at your face.
That
Don't
was
eat
one of the
us.
pranks. That was one of the few pranks, Dusty, that you were actually in on.
Yeah, that we wasn't trying to get you. The problem with that, Dusty, is you would leave all week, and then you only came down on the weekends, right? Or like every other weekend or whatever. So we had a week to plot. Yeah, we had a week to plot. So we was like, yeah, when he gets down this weekend, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. So
Man,
yeah, you was always the guinea pig, man.
On that one prank at Derek's house, how many times did Matt die?
Matt died 25 times that night.
30-something times. He had to go back there in Derek's room. That's where we would go when we'd have to go laugh, We'd get in Derek's living room, and then whenever we couldn't handle it no more, we would have to go back there where Matt was dying, and we'd have to laugh it out and get it out of our systems.
And somebody had to always be with Dusty because it seems like he had a big knife or a hunting knife or something, and we had to really keep him from trying to kill people, man.
He wanted to call the police.
To be fair, I always always had a knife with me.
We was like, no, man, don't call the police. We'll handle this ourselves.
Yeah, we're 13. We got it.
They had that cordless phone, and somebody was behind the couch, and they unplugged the cord from the cordless phone. And I was like, here, call him then. And I tossed it to him. He's like, oh, God, man, I ain't got no dial tone. I ain't got no dial tone.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
that night, I don't even know how that night happened.
He said, screw y'all.
I don't even
Wait
know.
a minute. Where's Dusty at?
Killing somebody.
He gonna show up at my house.
But I think the funniest night that I remember with Travis was the night where he was trying to sleep. And I just kept messing. That was, to me, that will always be my Travis's.
Is that the blue dick night?
Yeah. Travis was, I don't know, he was so tired. He couldn't sleep because I kept messing with him.
I was homeless, man. I was living in my van, and it wasn't even down by the rivers and Walmart parking lot. So, I get on the couch and I just want to sleep. That had to have been what it was.
No, that was hilarious, man.
That was
And he got so mad, he'd come up there wanting to fight. I was like, I'm going to stomp whoever does this again. Then he'd fall back asleep. We'd stick it right back in his mouth.
I would take it under my pants and put it and feed it through my zipper. I was sitting right there and just teabag Travis the whole time, and he'd start smacking at me.
Yes, that's good. I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Is that
Where'd you get that at Harbor Freight? Because I seen him at Harbor Freight the other day.
I've had this knife longer than the movie came out. This is actually a buck knife that they used.
Really?
Yeah, I've had this knife is, I'm 45, so this knife is probably 35 years old.
I'd stab somebody with it.
We pranked him in the woods.
I told you he was going to get a knife.
Yeah, Dusty, what are you doing?
He walked around with Matt out there in the woods, and he comes back and he goes, "Oh God!" And it's Corky, okay, all 5'10" of Corky.
Yeah.
Glow in the dark Jason mask on. He's wearing camouflage, Man, that's bigger than Haters. That's bigger than Haters.
He's bigger than David Ayers.
I will admit, man, my mind went right into just complete panic mode. I mean, it really was. It was a good one. Now, I will say this. When y'all finally came out, because Corky came out in the mask and he lifted up, he's like, and I stood up and everybody's like, oh, we done made the biggest dude in here mad, and we in an enclosed space. And we don't know that we've took all the knives off of him.
Yeah.
He's always got one more. He's like the Joker. No, and then I was like, dude, that was pretty good. And I could see Corky just go, like, we ain't got to fight this man.
Yeah. God, it went on for hours, man, didn't it?
God,
I started off back of the woods. And I
Forever.
never even made it to the back of the woods. And then I come out and I'm carrying that big, huge boom box, the big
Yeah,
yellow,
the yellow one.
I had. And then I see somebody, you or Matt or somebody jump out and they start waving me in. And I'm like 300 yards away. So I start running through this sage field. I tripped and fell. Like I fell like 5 times. Had to pick up the boombox, weighed like 50 pounds. Here I am running through this field. Got up to Derek's apartment, and then we completely recalculated the whole plan.
Yeah, dude, we were just flying by the seat of our pants that night.
Yeah.
Man.
We were walking through because Matt had a BB gun or something like a BB rifle, and he would cock it and like try to point at Corky, and it would fire, but then you'd see the BB just roll out.
Yeah.
It's like it won't fire. It won't fire.
That was
The craziest thing I remember about that night was, well, I guess it was the scariest thing, was how crazy it was. A bunch of, young teenage boys running through the woods at night with all the potential dangers that were in those woods from drug addict adults.
That's why it's a different time, man. It was a different time. The
Right.
kids these days could not do that stuff because they would trip and fall on a syringe or
Yeah,
who
but
knows.
that syringe was in the woods when we was there. We just didn't find it.
Yeah, or we just didn't care.
Well,
Syringe,
kids are
dead
probably
body,
actively
Calvin
looking for it
Fox.
now.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, we're about an hour and 40 minutes in, and I know Matt's got to get up and go to work tomorrow, so we'll go ahead and shut this one down. That was a good episode, man. That was different from anything we've ever done, and I enjoyed it, man. I think I got some stuff I definitely needed to get off my chest, and I think you guys did too. So
oh yeah.
that's a good episode, man, and we'll tell everybody bye, and we'll see them next week. So everybody, say bye.
Hi.
Later.
Dude.
Yeah, they tuned in, it's the Dude Bash rolling deep. Mic check like that, file, let's hit a beat. Voices flowing like the river, knowledge on the spree. Every episode a journey, come ride with me. Just hit play, it's a vibe, can't you see? The Dude Bash, we breaking it down. From the underground to the top of the town. Life's effects, intertwined, wearing the crown.